Under a brilliant moon, one day changed everything. A young man, battered and weary, faces his new reality. A mysterious spirit appears to him in the starlight. She asks him to gather the power of other spirits. A path to becoming a great spirit user is laid before him. She reveals her true form, offering to become his weapon. With a gentle smile, she pledges loyalty to her new master. And just like that, our boy was completely smitten. But this all began 2 weeks ago, in utter chaos. Prisoners were being driven to a meaningless slaughter. The prisoners are gripped by despair, seeing no way out. Their executioner is an A-rank monster, the fearsome Cerberus. The beast immediately begins its brutal, merciless assault. It unleashes a torrent of fire, incinerating its victims. The men scatter in pure terror, but there is nowhere to run. In their minds, a gruesome death is the only possible end. But as one man accepts his fate, he's shoved aside by our protagonist. Apparently, our boy didn't get the meaningless slaughter memo. The man watches in shock as a monstrous head hits the ground. The other prisoners can only stare, their reality shattered. The wounded beast howls in agony and rage. The other prisoners begin to recognize the boy. They know him by a fearsome title, the Plague God. A dark, ominous aura surrounds the young man. He uses his own chains as a makeshift flail. The onlookers can't believe what they're seeing. A strange power emanates from his very being. And with one final brutal strike, the beast is slain. Back in the city, the townsfolk are absolutely losing it. The slave explorers have returned from an A-rank dungeon. The crowd erupts, identifying the survivor as Alva, a slave explorer. Elsewhere, a powerful lord is already dreading the news. He rages, admitting the entire slaughter was designed just to kill Alva. Weighed down and sent to his death, he somehow defied all odds. The townsfolk watch him pass, their fear turning into bitter hatred. They curse him, pelting him with garbage as he walks on, unfazed. The entire street joins in the jeering, a parade of pure contempt. In a nearby tavern, a traveler questions the bizarre hostility. You'd think they'd be grateful. The local drunk reveals the source of their scorn. Alva's lineage. His father, once a respected noble, betrayed them all, becoming a ruthless bandit. In a single night, Alva's father burned their homes and stole their future. By the time the army arrived, the bandits were long gone, and with their rage needing a target, all that remained was the traitor's abandoned son. The traveler is disgusted by their twisted sense of justice. The old man admits it's awful, but the town's economy depends on it. You know, priorities. They want him to die, yet they rely on him to survive. For 6 long years, this has been Alva's reality. Even his fellow prisoners curse his name, blaming him for their fate. But through it all, Alva silently carries the burden, promising to protect them. But his promise falls on deaf ears. They just want him to stay away. Alva reflects on how this all began, with simple torment. His first battle was as a child against 2 lowly goblins. He won, but was left a bloody mess on the dungeon floor. For the cheering crowds, his suffering was the main event. Year after year, they sent him to fight, hoping he'd break. But the battles meant to torture him only made him stronger. Their little miscalculation created a warrior who couldn't be killed. Naturally, the town's leadership was less than thrilled with this outcome. Yet, locked away in his cell, Alva understands their twisted logic. Even the guards are in on the torment, denying him his meal. It's been 5 days in a row, and the hunger is setting in. Trapped by a magic collar, he understands he's only just surviving. He knows that eventually the Lord's schemes will finally kill him. He accepts his fate, knowing death will come for him soon. In another dungeon, he faces off against a hulking minotaur. His companions scatter, their screams echoing in the dungeon. But Alva stands his ground, facing a superior black minotaur. Great. A limited edition monster. He counters the beast's overwhelming strength with pure speed, and with his chains as a weapon, he lands a brutal kick to the jaw. The beast crashes to the ground, stunned by the force of the blow. His fellow prisoners can only watch, calling him insane. They can't believe he's holding his own against such a monster. But Alva knows he's at a disadvantage, weakened by starvation. To make matters worse, his sword is chipped and barely usable. The Minotaur recovers, roaring with renewed fury. He knows a single mistake now could be his last. But just as the battle intensifies, something catches his eye. A small, bright yellow lizard scuttles across the floor. He worries the tiny creature will be crushed in the crossfire. He tries to force himself to focus, knowing the lizard isn't his problem. But the tiny creature just looks so utterly helpless. And against all logic, his hardened resolve begins to crack. The other prisoners can only stare, completely dumbfounded. He dives to the ground, shielding the lizard with his own body. Alva immediately questions his own sanity. What was he thinking? But with no time for regrets, he realizes he has to use this opening. He drives his broken sword straight up into the beast's foot. The Minotaur lets out a bellow of pure, unadulterated agony. And with the monster distracted, Alva thrusts the blade deep into its throat. With a final surge of strength, Alva drives the blade home. The beast chokes on its own blood, its life fading away. He follows up with his chains, severing the monster's head. The other prisoners can only watch in utter disbelief. And the reason for his reckless move? A tiny lizard, now safe. Instead of gratitude, they curse him for surviving yet again. Because of course they do. Back in the tavern, the traveler finds holes in the old man's story. He wonders how one man could defy an entire army so easily. The old man mentions rumors of a mysterious sudden power-up, but Alva, at the time, was completely unaware of these rumors. He had no idea this small lizard was about to change everything. The old man speaks of spirit users, legendary beings of immense power, and for Alva, this was the moment his destiny was sealed. Back in his cell, he reflects on the hell he just endured. He tells the tiny creature he almost died saving its life, but he quickly admits the fault was entirely his own. He risked it all for a creature he didn't even know. He can't help but be amazed at his own stupidity, but as the hunger gnaws at him, a dark thought emerges. The lizard, however, remains blissfully unaware of its new role as an appetizer, but even in his darkest moment, a flicker of kindness remains. He reassures the tiny creature, promising it's safe from him. He even offers it his tattered cloth as a makeshift blanket. The lizard happily accepts, snuggling into its new bed. A rare, genuine smile crosses Alva's face, but soon the reality of his situation crashes back down. His arm throbs with pain from the Minotaur's attack. Suddenly, a strange, bubbling light envelops his wound. Alva can only stare, completely stunned by the phenomenon. He looks down, realizing the magic came from his tiny companion. Alva's mind rejects what he's seeing. Monsters don't heal humans. It's a fundamental rule of his world, one this tiny creature just shattered. He looks at his small companion, demanding to know what it truly is. In the quiet of his cell, he holds the source of this miracle in his hand. But there's no time for answers, as another trial is about to begin. A hulking golem stands before him, its sheer size a testament to its power. It slams its fists down, shaking the very foundations of the arena. The other prisoners can only cower, blinded by the dust and debris. They realize with horror that the shockwave alone is a lethal weapon. Great, another easy day at the office, and for once they seem genuinely worried that Alva might not make it out alive. Alva's mind is still on the tiny creature he saved. It used magic to heal him, a power unheard of for monsters. It was an existence that defied all known categories of life. Even now, the answer to that question still eludes him. He's snapped back to reality by the prisoner's familiar curses. Alva scolds himself for getting lost in thought during a battle. With the battle over, it's time for some good old-fashioned betrayal. The man lunges, aiming to kill Alva while his guard is down, but Alva's instincts are faster than any blade, blocking the strike. He calmly asks if the Lord put him up to this. Alva shows no anger, understanding the promise of freedom. The would-be assassin can only confirm the bitter truth. Alva accepts that in this town he has no allies. Not the townsfolk, not even the other slaves. They are all enemies. As the others harvest the golem, he reaffirms his lonely path. Meanwhile, at the Lord's estate, urgent news arrives. The Lord already knows what he's about to hear. He watches the chaos below, enraged that his plan failed. Again, he decides it's time to stop being subtle with his methods. Back in his cell, Alva wonders why the little lizard is still here. He realizes the lizard is free to leave, yet it remains by his side. He finds comfort in the idea that this lizard won't betray him like humans do. He's lost all hope in humanity, save for one person he needs to see. The man who started it all, his father, the source of his torment. And his one regret is that he'll die here, never knowing why. The little creature senses his pain, once again casting its healing magic. He thanks his tiny companion, amazed that he's almost fully recovered. He may not understand it, but at least this ally won't stab him in the back. Literally. The only sound it makes is a strange little Coup. Inspired by its unique cry, he officially names his new friend Coup. Alva finally gets a meal, realizing their goal is to weaken, not kill him. But his first thought is to share his meager food with Coup. The tiny creature's happy cry brings a rare warmth to his heart. And just like that, his lonely cell gained a new, strange roommate. His days are spent fighting for his life in the dungeons. But his nights are spent caring for his only companion. He reflects on this strange bond, unlike any he's ever known. The simple presence of this tiny creature brings him a sense of peace. He doesn't need its magic. Its companionship is more than enough. He realizes this is something he's never had in his entire life. A true friend. For the first time, Alva thinks he might know what a friend is. But in his world, moments of peace are always fleeting. The Lord himself appears, greeting Alva with his usual charm. Alva notes the Lord's unusual presence at the dungeon entrance. The Lord smirks, revealing this is a special occasion. He's here for a front row seat to Alva's execution. His aide activates a magical artifact to punish the sinner. A surge of agonizing electricity courses through Alva's body. With Alva paralyzed, a guard moves in for the killing blow. The blade sinks into his leg, adding physical pain to the magical torment. To make matters worse, the spear was coated in a fast-acting poison. But the Lord's plan had one flaw, the collar's feedback loop. And for the first time, Alva makes a promise directly to his tormentor. Despite his injury, he's forced deeper into the dungeon. The Lord has arranged a special broadcast for the entire town. Tonight's entertainment is Alva's long-awaited public execution. His opponent is an ogre king, backed by a horde of its kin. Wounded, poisoned, and outnumbered, Alva feels his end is near. But even facing certain death, the fire in his eyes refuses to die. The ogre king lunges, ready to deliver the final crushing blow. The battle begins as Alva parries the king's massive club. The king's minions join the fray, their roars shaking the cavern. Alva dodges a crushing blow that shatters the ground beneath him. He weaves through the horde, a whirlwind of desperate, bloody strikes. He knows his only chance is to take down the leader immediately. But just as he makes his move, a familiar agony racks his body. The Lord activates the slave collar, adding electrocution to the mix, because fair fights are for suckers. The ogre horde closes in, sensing their moment to strike him down. But Alva fights through the pain, his will refusing to break. He roars in defiance, unleashing a furious counterattack on his foes. An ogre grabs him from behind, raising its club for the kill. But Alva spins into the attack, meeting the blow with his own blade. Just then, the collar activates again, sending agony through his veins. He grits his teeth, refusing to let the pain overwhelm his focus. Pushing through the torment, he lands a devastating upward slash. The blade bites deep, carving a bloody path through the monster's flesh. The rest of the horde can only stare, wondering how he's still standing. Wounded and electrocuted, Alva continues his relentless assault. Apparently, he's just built different. But the collar's power comes at a cost, requiring a sacrifice for the recoil. And the Lord is happily using other slaves to pay that price. But as he fights, his eyes lock onto a horrifying sight. The Lord's men have captured Coup, his only friend in the world. He orders the guard to kill the tiny creature, forcing Alva to watch. In a desperate split-second decision, Alva hurls his only weapon. The blade pierces the guard's arm, saving Coup from certain death. But the move leaves him defenseless and the Ogre King's club connects. The Lord celebrates. Alva is now disarmed and Coup is no longer needed. Poisoned, surrounded, and electrocuted, his chances are effectively zero. As he lies defeated, his mind drifts to his inevitable end and his empty stomach. Priorities, you know? He always knew he would die in this hell. It just happened to be today. He finds peace in one final thought. He saved his only friend. And with that, Alva's eyes drift closed for the last time. He believes this is a worthy enough end to his suffering, but a mysterious voice suddenly echoes in his mind. He opens his eyes to see Coup resting on his chest. The tiny lizard's eyes glow with an otherworldly blue light. The entire ogre horde freezes, paralyzed by an unseen force. The voice asks if he's truly ready to die here. A question seemingly from Coup. Alva admits he gave up long ago. His future is just more death. He insists there's no point, but the voice continues to press him. The voice asks if he's truly giving up on life so easily. Alva is stunned by the accusation. Easily? The word ignites a firestorm of rage within him. He screams that as a slave, he has no other choice. Slaves are born to die like trash for no reason at all. He's seen it happen time and time again. No matter how hard they fight, they all end up dead. The turnover rate here is just abysmal. He pours out his heart to the only creature that's ever shown him kindness. The townsfolk, the Lord, even his fellow slaves. They are all his enemies. For a slave, life is just pain, sadness, and a quiet death. But the voice in his mind cuts through his despair with a single declaration. It reveals itself not as an enemy, but as his one true ally. Alva can only stare, his world turned upside down once again. The voice promises to be there, even when all hope seems lost. All it asks for in return is his complete and total trust. Then, it poses a question he's never dared to ask himself. What is his wish? The concept of a wish is so foreign. He can barely form the word. He knows that speaking his desires won't change his fate as a slave. He's accepted that he will die here. But even so, a part of him has always yearned for someone to hear his voice. He realizes that more than anything, he just wanted to be heard. And with tears in his eyes, he finally speaks his true wish. The voice in his mind reaffirms its unwavering promise to him. For the first time, Alva asks for help, a desperate plea to his only friend. In response, the voice offers its simple, heartfelt gratitude. A brilliant light erupts from his chest as their souls connect. Coup begins to glow, its true power finally awakening. The surge of energy is almost too much for Alva to bear. A golden necklace materializes, a symbol of their new bond. Finally, some non-torture-related jewelry. The voice declares their contract sealed, opening a path to a new destiny. A radiant winged being descends from the light before him. Her eyes are closed, a picture of serene, otherworldly power. Then, they open, revealing a gaze that holds the stars themselves. Alva can only stare, his mind struggling to catch up with reality. He finally asks if this divine creature is truly his friend, Coup. She reaches for him, calling him master for the very first time. The spirit announces she will now unleash her true power. The ogre horde can only watch, their murder plans officially on hold. Even the Lord's men are stunned into silence by the spectacle. A brilliant explosion of light erupts, consuming the entire cavern. Alva stares at his hands, the shattered remains of his slave collar falling away. He reflects that this was the day his entire world was turned upside down. He sits in the wreckage, the cavern ceiling now open to the brilliant night sky. This all began with a promise, a path to becoming a great spirit user, and a pledge from this divine being to become his sword, his loyal servant. The Lord's men can only whisper in awe about the display of spirit magic. Back in the present, Coup channels her power, healing his poisoned leg. She assures him the poison is gone, her transformation still a shock to behold. You know, just your average glow-up from lizard to goddess. Alva's mind reels. His collar is broken and he's lost in her talk of spirits. But he cuts through the confusion, asking if she's still his friend, Coup. She playfully asks if he can't see the obvious differences. Alva is completely lost, so she tries to pass it off as a spirit joke. He bombards her with questions, but she tables the discussion for later. She explains the monsters are gone, but the humans are merely unconscious. With the immediate threats neutralized, she tells him it's time to go. She then transforms into a magnificent golden dragon, offering him a ride. Alva's mind struggles to process this latest massive glow-up. She insists she was always a dragon, but Alva remembers a tiny lizard. Done with the debate, she gently scoops him onto her back, and with that, they soar into the sky, leaving his old life behind. Under the brilliant moon, they soar through the endless night sky. Alva hangs on for dear life, clearly not a seasoned dragon rider. He reflects on the chaos, realizing only two things truly matter now. First, the slave collar that defined his entire life is finally broken. And second, he's learned for the first time just how vast the world can be. Their journey brings them to a new town, far from his old prison. Their first stop is the local Adventurers Guild, a place for new beginnings. Alva steps up to the counter, greeted by a cheerful guild receptionist. He stands before her with his powerful spirit companion peeking out from behind. The receptionist asks if he's registered, explaining the guild's rules for newcomers. But his new life hits its first roadblock, a 5,000 gold registration fee. The receptionist offers him a way to earn it, but they've already drawn unwanted attention. The local adventurers mock his tattered clothes, one even guessing he's an escaped slave. But their scorn turns to intrigue as they notice his companion's noble grace. Alva realizes that even with her powers hidden, they stand out like a sore thumb. His instincts scream as one of the men quietly slips out of the guild. The man rushes through the back alleys, eager to report his findings. He informs his boss that a prime target for the slave trade has just walked in. A new town, same old problems. The boss, a gaudy crime lord, confirms that his target is an unregistered rookie. He lets out a sinister laugh, ready to teach this newcomer about newbie hunting. The crime lord rallies his bandit crew, the aptly named Anger Greed Gang. And so, the bandits lie in wait for their unsuspecting targets. They ambush Alva and Coup, surrounding them on a forest path. But Coup seems more fascinated than afraid, calling them the rumored bandits. The boss sneers, promising them a lesson in suffering. His men laugh, making it clear they have vile intentions for Coup. Coup, however, is more concerned with Alva's questionable diet. Alva's eyes, however, are fixed on the boss's gaudy jewelry. His gaze then shifts to the man's sparkling golden necklace. Coup suddenly declares that money grows on humans, much to the bandit's confusion. The bandit boss scoffs, deciding she needs to be taught a lesson. But Coup is far more offended by their insults towards Alva. With a single command, the entire gang charges forward. But they're stopped in their tracks as Coup unleashes her true form. The bandits can only scream, their confidence instantly evaporating. They fall back in terror, questioning how a dragon appeared out of nowhere. The boss's mind races, trying to comprehend a shape-shifting monster. Then, a horrifying realization dawns on him. This is no mere beast, which means the tattered slave is actually a legendary spirit user. And with a casual flick of her tail, Coup begins to clean house. The bandits are in a full-blown panic, screaming about legendary spirits. The boss realizes spirit users are incredibly rare, with only 1 or 2 per nation. He can't understand why such a powerful being is gathering herbs like a rookie. But he rallies his men, claiming that while the spirit is strong, the user is just human. With renewed confidence, they charge Alva, aiming to kill the master. But Alva moves in a blur, sending them flying with a single kick. Apparently, he's not just human. He scolds them for trying to steal his precious herbs, his only source of food money. The remaining bandits can only stare, convinced Alva is completely insane. Coup decides she's had enough, preparing a massive blast of spirit magic. The bandits can only utter a confused "eh" as their world is consumed by light. The bandit boss can only let out a pathetic, confused gasp. Coup's explosive light breath attack engulfs the entire forest, and just like that, the entire area is reduced to a smoldering wasteland. Coup, meanwhile, is happily looting the bandits' belongings. Turns out dragons really like shiny things. Alva calmly surveys the defeated bandits, his precious herbs still in hand. But Coup isn't satisfied, demanding to know where the rest of their treasure is hidden. Her eyes burn with fiery greed, reminding him of a dragon's legendary attachment to treasure. She excitedly tells Alva they should raid the hideout immediately for more loot. But Alva is more concerned with his herbs, which Coup dismisses as pocket change. Alva ignores her, stating he has other priorities to handle first. Alva stands over the defeated bandits, his precious herbs still in hand. He turns to their leader with a serious, demanding gaze. He asks the boss to explain what a spirit user truly is. The boss begins a lore dump on spirits, beings of immense, undefined power. He explains they are considered the strongest life forms in existence. Their strength comes from spirit magic, a power beyond mortal comprehension, and humans who contract them are spirit users marked by a special necklace. The boss then has a sudden terrifying realization. Why is a spirit user asking a bandit for a tutorial? Alva explains that Coup prioritizes food over exposition. Priorities, you know. But Alva's attention returns to the boss, his gaze turning sharp and suspicious. Alva notes that for a common bandit, the boss knows an awful lot about legendary beings. He presses the man, demanding to know where he acquired such rare knowledge. The bandit boss, however, just offers a smug, knowing smile. Even tied up, he laughs, warning Alva that he'll regret this decision. Alva can't help but be a little impressed by the man's foolish guts. Later that night, with their newfound wealth, they settle in at a local inn, and Alva has what can only be described as a religious experience with his first real meal. He devours plate after plate, wondering if such delicious food could even exist. The other patrons are completely baffled by his dramatic display of joy. Coup simply explains that her master has had a rather special upbringing. He declares this simple meal is paradise, his face a picture of pure bliss. He asks if this is how nobles eat, but Coup reminds him it's just a regular dining hall. Coup, meanwhile, has discovered the true power of money, and she is a big fan. Alva claims he's drowning in wealth, much to the innkeeper's unimpressed stare. Having eaten them out of house and home, the owner tells him it's time for a bath. The very idea of a bath sends him into a state of shock. You know, priorities. And so, for what feels like the first time, he finally gets to wash away years of grime. He sinks into the hot water, amazed that such a simple act could feel so good. But his moment of quiet reflection is interrupted by a familiar voice. Coup appears, wrapped in a towel, offering to wash his back for him. Alva agrees, though he's clearly confused by the concept of a shared bath. Coup notes that after years of filth, a normal towel just won't cut it. Her solution, of course, is a giant ball of industrial-grade steel wool. Alva's moment of peace is shattered by a sudden abrasive assault. She praises his durability as she scrubs while he screams in agony. After the ordeal, they finally soak in the hot water, the worst of it over. Coup admires her work, declaring that her master is now sparkling clean. Alva stares at the water, convinced this is the legendary bath he's only heard of. He wonders if he's actually dead, but Coup assures him this is just an inn. He floats in the water, realizing his entire world has been rewritten in a single day. Alva struggles to find the words for this new sensation. He realizes he can never go back to his life as a slave. Coup watches him, her expression unreadable for a moment, but she quickly breaks into a gentle, reassuring smile. She tells him not to worry about his old life ever again, because they now wield the greatest power of all, money. Alva is immediately on board, his tears of joy a testament to their wealth. Coup then tries to change the subject, getting a little closer, but Alva claims he's just a battle golem, completely oblivious to her charms. His wandering eyes, however, tell a slightly different story. Alva admits this simple, safe moment is the best he's ever felt. For the first time, he can relax without fearing for his life. Coup watches him, a quiet, thoughtful expression on her face. Later that night, back in their room, another discovery awaits. Alva stares in awe at the legendary item known as a bed. He questions their purpose, claiming he can sleep anywhere just fine. But the moment he lies down, the mattress completely swallows him. He's overwhelmed by a sensation he's never known, pure comfort. Coup watches, pleased that her master is finally experiencing true bliss. Apparently it's a mattress. And as the night settles in, she makes a subtle, inviting move. She decides to excuse herself, right into his bed, much to his confusion. Alva is completely flustered, his mind clearly not equipped for this situation. Coup looks up at him with wide, innocent eyes, asking what's wrong. He points out that her bed is in the other part of the room. You know, the one he paid for. He realizes it's a habit from her lizard days, though she's quick to correct him. She was a small dragon. He tries to send her away, but she hits him with the ultimate weapon, puppy dog eyes. Alva admits his deep-seated trauma makes him uneasy, and he was more comfortable with her lizard form. Ouch, right in the dragon pride. But their awkward moment is cut short as Coup suddenly senses a hostile presence. She looks out the window to see two soldiers lurking in the darkness below. Alva recognizes the crest on their armor. His past has already caught up with him. Coup identifies the men as scouts, warning that an army will soon follow. But Alva refuses to run, his mind already made up. He declares that this is where he'll settle things once and for all. Coup smiles, promising to stand by his side no matter what. But she has one small condition for her unwavering support. Once his past is settled, she asks him to listen to her story about spirits. Alva is surprised, realizing she's finally ready to give him some answers. He agrees, vowing to put an end to his life as a slave and move forward. His resolve brings a warm, knowing smile to Cou's face. She turns, ready to finally reveal the truth he's been waiting for. She begins to explain the power he now wields, the key to his future. It's time for Alva to learn the secrets of spirit magic. But before the lesson can begin, an entire army appears on the horizon. Their banners fly high as they prepare to face a single enemy. Alva stands ready, now branded the sworn enemy of his homeland. The order is given with pure, unadulterated hatred. He must not survive. The odds are stacked against them, a battle of 2,000 against 1. Talk about a fair fight. The Lord's personal troops have arrived, ready to carry out his will. The Lord himself watches, confident that even without the collar, Alva is trapped. And with a single command, he orders his entire army to attack. The Lord rallies his troops, painting Alva as a cowardly fugitive who must atone. He demands they hunt him to the ends of the earth and display his head. Coup, however, seems more impressed than intimidated by the massive crowd. She notes his popularity, but Alva isn't exactly thrilled with this kind of attention. She can't comprehend their logic, wondering what they gain from this fight. Alva guesses it's about pride, a concept he's all too familiar with. He reflects on their choice to stay, knowing he could have easily fled. This battle is his way of saying goodbye to the slave he once was. Coup notes they haven't realized she's a spirit, making their numbers almost irrelevant. Alva recalls her first appearance was so fast, no one got a good look. For an urban legend, she's not great at marketing. Coup warns him that for a human, this is an overwhelming threat. Alva stares down the 2,000 soldiers sent to kill him. She asks if he's afraid of the impossible odds. His answer is a simple, unwavering no. He smirks, almost disappointed by the turnout. On the other side, the commander gives the order to charge. The entire army roars, a tidal wave of steel and fury. But Alva stands his ground, a strange power gathering in his hand. The story flashes back to a few days ago, to a very important lesson. Coup had decided it was time for a crash course in Spirit Magic 101. Coup begins her lesson, complete with a helpful, dragon-drawn sign. She starts with the basics, explaining the source of their power. The very foundation of their strength is spirit magic itself. Alva recalls the explosive light that shattered his slave collar. She explains that spirits wield a unique power called spiritual energy. By forming a contract, a human can receive that energy directly. Alva watches as the power flows into him, a tangible force in his hand. She lays out the 3 main roles of a spirit user in combat. But for now, she tells him to ignore the first 2 points entirely. Seems legit. Against mere humans, simple spirit magic is all he'll ever need. Her advice is simple. Just use his new magic to defeat the entire army. Alva realizes this isn't a battle. It's a live fire training exercise. Coup offers a smug smile, pleased that he's catching on so quickly. She explains 1 blast can wipe out 1,000 soldiers. You know, just a light warm-up. The real test, however, is how fast he can fire a second shot. Any delay means they'll be surrounded, and their new life will be cut short. The lesson ends with a simple but heavy warning. Back in the present, Alva gathers his power, ready to put her words into action. The soldiers charge forward, a tidal wave of steel against a single man. He sets his technique to non-lethal and prepares to fire his first shot. The soldiers can only utter a confused gasp before the end. A single blast of explosive light consumes the entire battlefield. Even Coup is left completely speechless by the sheer scale of the attack. Alva stares at the devastation, just as confused as everyone else. From his throne, the Lord can only scream in utter disbelief. The entire front line of the army has been completely wiped out. Coup realizes she might have made a slight miscalculation. She admits that she severely underestimated her new master. Apparently, overpowered wasn't in her vocabulary. She explains his own magic power was far greater than she anticipated. His years of suffering forged a power beyond even a spirit's imagination. Alva's eyes burn with a cold, unwavering resolve. He stands over his former master, asking if this is the victory he wanted. But there's no triumph in his voice, only deep disappointment. After 6 years of mutual hatred, he thought they understood each other. He makes it clear that even without Coup, the Lord's plan was doomed. The Lord can only tremble, his pride shattered and his pants compromised. With the matter settled, Alva decides to simply walk away. He leaves his past behind, with nothing left to say. But a strange, crackling energy suddenly fills the air. A mysterious new observer praises the rookie spirit user's performance. Alva confronts the newcomer, demanding to know her identity. She introduces herself as Ancilla, a name she says is of no importance. She cryptically explains that she's part of a group that manages things. Great, interdimensional HR is here. With a pleasant smile, she says she's here on orders to greet him. But Coup reacts with pure fury, recognizing the term forbidden technique user. She steps forward protectively, asking if Ancilla has come to take her away. As Alva tries to process this, Coup's anger only continues to build. She identifies the woman as a guardian of the law from the Beacon organization. Ancilla's calm, almost cheerful expression remains completely unchanged. And Alva is officially lost, with no idea what's happening in his own story anymore. He shouts that he has no idea what anyone is talking about. Alva realizes that whatever is happening, the time for talking is over. Coup mutters that this is all wrong. Her punishment wasn't due for another month. Ancilla calmly states that Coup's power returned through the contract. Alva finally connects the dots, realizing her transformation was her power returning. Coup clenches her fist, frustrated that this situation is completely unprecedented. She begs for just 10 minutes to explain everything to her new master. Alva remembers their promise. He was supposed to learn her story after his battle. But these intruders have arrived at the worst possible moment. Ancilla rejects the plea, stating she doesn't negotiate with rule breakers. Looks like HR is sticking to the script. Coup protests, calling their judgment completely one-sided. But before she can argue, Ancilla's hulking partner makes his move. He strikes with blinding speed, sending the powerful spirit to the ground. Alva catches her, his concern quickly turning to cold fury. The enforcer declares that as a rule breaker, she has no rights, only duties. Coup can only curse herself for letting her guard down for a single moment. Her attacker states that she has no choice in the matter, but Alva steps forward, placing himself between them. Apparently, he disagrees. He glares at the intruders, demanding to know who the hell they are. Ancilla simply smiles, noting how they've left him out of the conversation. Coup looks on, bruised, wondering if this will all end in violence. But Alva steps forward, his eyes burning with rage as he faces the giant. The enforcer scoffs, questioning Alva's intelligence for daring to challenge him. He reminds the boy that as a spirit, he could kill a human in an instant. He looms over Alva, demanding that the boy learn his place. But Alva doesn't flinch, his defiance unwavering in the face of the threat. Suddenly, Ancilla cuts in, telling her partner he should know his place. She orders him to stand down, questioning who gave him permission to act. Looks like someone's about to get a talking to from HR. The hulking enforcer's confidence immediately evaporates. He reluctantly backs away, revealing his true form as a centaur. Ancilla offers a smug, almost playful smile. Alva wonders if his little army-wiping stunt drew too much attention. She closes her parasol, addressing Coup directly. Ancilla asks if Coup will come with them quietly, or if she'll insist on dragging her clueless master into this mess. Alva can only look to Coup for answers he doesn't have. Coup lowers her head, seemingly accepting her fate. She decides she must go alone to protect Alva from her past. But as she walks away, Alva grabs her hand, refusing to let go. She turns back, offering a sad smile and thanking him for their time together. He screams her name, refusing to accept what's happening. But Ancilla simply snaps her fingers, a picture of calm authority. And in a flash of light, Coup is simply gone. Alva can only stare, his mind struggling to process the loss. He's left alone, screaming his frustration into the empty fields. For an entire day, he searches for her but finds no trace. He travels from town to town, asking about spirits and the Beacon organization, but no one has ever heard of these mysterious beings. Apparently, interdimensional HR keeps a low profile. He even turns to fellow adventurers, hoping for any lead, but his desperate search yields absolutely nothing. He wanders aimlessly through the night, a ghost among the living. His mind is a storm of unanswered questions and growing despair. He finds himself back at the inn, a place of bittersweet memories. Another day ends with nothing but crushing disappointment. He's completely lost, with no idea how to even begin his search. A waitress brings him a familiar meal, a taste of a happier time. He takes a bite, hoping to find some small comfort in the food. But he can't help but wonder why it's different now. He remembers that first meal, a feast shared with his only friend. He realizes the food is the same, but it tastes completely bland without her. But his brooding is interrupted by a mysterious horned woman. Alva tells her to get lost, assuming she's just another heckler. She scoffs at his attitude, calling him an impudent rookie. But then she asks a question that cuts right through his despair. He looks up, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. The woman offers a smug, knowing smile in return. She introduces herself as Julius, a name he's never heard, and she claims to be a spirit with the exact same goal as him. Looks like a side quest just walked in. This strange new ally seems to be the lead he's been searching for. Alva is completely stunned, his lonely quest suddenly not so lonely anymore. Alva processes her words, a flicker of hope in his eyes. He asks if this means she's here to help him save Coup. But Julius just lets out a long, exasperated sigh. She scolds him for giving her little sister a nickname without permission. Alva is stunned. He never imagined Coup had a family to begin with. Julius awkwardly clarifies they aren't blood-related, but more like sisters. She slams the table, insisting she's a big sister figure from the same place. Her sisterly love is so strong she could track Cou's energy. As one does. Alva can only stare, completely unimpressed by the dramatic display. She cuts through the awkwardness, trying to get the conversation back on track. She insists their goals are aligned, demanding his cooperation. Alva agrees, clearly unimpressed by her theatrics. She begins to explain that Coup is facing some kind of punishment. Alva immediately connects this to the forbidden technique he heard earlier. Julius is surprised he knows even that much about the situation. But she quickly moves on, stressing that Coup is in grave danger. The weight of her words settles on him, his expression hardening. She starts with the basics. Spirits are the world's strongest beings. But she reveals this common knowledge is completely wrong. Great, another lore dump. She speaks of a place called the Spirit Labyrinth, the gate of the sky. She calls it the dwelling place of spirits, a dungeon where the world's strongest beings run wild. Alva can only repeat the name, the reality of the situation sinking in. She explains that Coup was teleported there while still weakened by the forbidden technique's backlash. Worse, this dungeon is a special, more brutal version designed specifically for punishment, because of course it is. Julius lays it out plainly. Coup is in a desperate, life-threatening situation. She warns him that helping Coup means being dragged into a world of even greater danger. With a heavy, shadowed gaze, she asks him a critical question. Does he still want to save Coup, knowing the impossible odds he'll face? A heavy silence hangs in the air as Alva weighs his decision. But his clenched fist gives her all the answers she needs. Julius presses him for an answer, reminding him that every second counts. She misinterprets his silence as refusal and prepares to leave, but Alva stops her, clarifying that he wasn't hesitating at all. He explains that he was simply surprised by the question. His mind flashes back to a lifetime spent trapped in a cage. He admits that in his entire life he's never had a real choice. But now, he declares he will save Coup by his own free will. For the first time, he feels a sense of pride in his own decision. He tells her he's happy, even if this path leads straight to hell, because for once it's a hell that he has chosen for himself. Julius is completely taken aback by his passionate declaration. With his resolve clear, she confirms their new alliance. She steels herself, announcing that they are finally ready to act. Then she shouts at the ceiling, calling out their hidden observer. And just like that, Ancilla appears, sipping tea at a nearby table. She calmly asks Julius to keep her voice down for the other patrons. Julius fumes, demanding they go to Coup now that her conditions are met. Ancilla agrees that with Alva on board, the regulations are satisfied. But as Julius presses to leave immediately, Ancilla reminds them, there's one more thing they need to do. Julius is completely lost, asking what else there is to do. Ancilla calmly points out Alva's unfinished meal. Apparently, interdimensional HR also handles food waste. Julius fumes that it's not important, while Alva happily finishes his meal. With Alva's meal finished, Julius demands Ancilla fulfill her promise. Ancilla offers a simple, knowing smile and agrees to their terms. And with a single, elegant snap of her fingers, the world around them dissolves into a crystalline abyss. Alva can only stare in shock, his mind reeling from the sudden teleportation. Even Julius is caught off guard, questioning where they've been taken. Ancilla simply smiles, welcoming them to their new destination. Ancilla formally welcomes them to the legendary Spirit Labyrinth. She calls it a place where all wishes are said to come true. A realm where miracles are born, a path to ultimate desire. She offers them power, wealth, and honor for the taking, or even ambitions that make such worldly things seem trivial. She repeats her grand welcome, a guide to this otherworldly realm. Alva is clearly struggling to keep up with this sudden lore dump, but Ancilla adds a crucial detail. This is the special version for rule breakers. She asks if they really need her to spell out the danger. Julius cuts her off, demanding they get moving to save Coup. Alva, completely lost, asks if he could maybe get an explanation. Julius promises to fill him in on the run, asking for his patience. Ancilla offers a cheerful warning. They'd better get along if they want to survive. And with that, their mysterious guide vanishes, leaving them to their fate. Julius is all business, declaring they have no time to waste. With a determined step, their impossible journey into the labyrinth begins. She lays out their goal: break through 10 layers and catch up to Coup. But before they can start, she insists there's something they must do first. Alva is confused by her sudden demand that he take her hand. He asks if she's just bad with directions, earning a furious denial. Off to a great start, you two. She impatiently tells him to just take her hand already. A brilliant light connects them, a new power being forged between them. Alva stares in shock as the energy surges directly into his body. A new red gem materializes on his necklace, a second contract sealed. Julius offers a smug congratulations on their new partnership. She confirms that he has just completed his second spirit contract. Alva asks about the pendant, but Julius is shocked he doesn't know. Apparently, Spirit User 101 was not on the curriculum, but his questions are cut short as he senses a new presence. 2 massive crystalline golems block their path forward. Julius reminds him that with their contract, he now wields her power. She tells him to pay close attention to what's about to happen. This, she declares, is the true power of the spirits. Her energy materializes into a massive flaming greatsword. With a single technique, she unleashes a wave of fire that shatters their foes. Alva can only watch, completely stunned by her overwhelming strength. She tells him his job is to wield this power skillfully. This, she explains, is the fundamental duty of a spirit user. Alva's apprehension turns into a confident smirk. He's ready for the challenge. On the second layer, a new crystalline beast, the Blade Leon, awaits them. Alva eagerly steps forward for his turn, much to his new partner's utter mortification. The Blade Leon unleashes its attack, a spinning blur of crystalline energy. Alva can only watch, surprised by the creature's sudden move. It launches a wide, sweeping arc of energy, aiming to cut them both down. But Julius yanks him back, scolding him for being on the front lines. She insists that fighting is her job, while Alva dodges with acrobatic skill. To prove her point, she unleashes a massive vortex of pure fire. Her fiery attack tears through the air with overwhelming force. With the beast shattered, she calls this the most basic of techniques. She lectures him on the roles: spirits fight and users stay safe. He seems to have missed that memo. But she realizes Alva was already dodging before she even moved to help. She's stunned that a mere human could react to a spirit's attack. Alva questions her logic. If spirits do all the fighting, what's the point of the user? He asks if humans are just a hindrance, but she insists that's not the case. She kicks him, asking if he paid any attention to Coup's lesson at all. He recalls the 3 main roles of a spirit user, a lesson he almost forgot. Julius confirms his memory, focusing on the first and most crucial role. The concept of enhancing a spirit with his own magic is still a mystery to him. She explains that spirits wield spiritual power, but they can't create magic power. Their true potential is only unlocked when those 2 forces are combined. Alva finally understands. The contract isn't one-sided, it's a partnership. With a confident smile, Julius decides it's time for a practical lesson. She declares it's time for a live demonstration, much to Alva's confusion. She explains their contract has forged a direct connection between their souls. His job is to feel that link and enhance her power with his own magic, but their training is cut short by a massive metal crystal golem. Julius summons her blade, ordering Alva to match her timing perfectly. Alva struggles to focus, channeling his magic for the very first time. As Julius dives in for the attack, she puts her full trust in her new partner. They both roar, their powers finally beginning to resonate as one. And together, they unleash a new technique, the devastating Diamond Flame. But Julius can only stare, completely stunned by their utter failure. The golem is still standing, completely unfazed by their combined attack. Alva admits he can't just enhance her on command, he's still learning. So while Julius handles the monster, Alva gets some much-needed practice. She gives him his homework: figure it out by the 6th layer, or else... But by the 3rd layer, Julius is the one who's losing her cool. She takes out her frustration on a giant bug, insisting she's not at full power. She admits that, like Coup, she's also weakened from using a forbidden technique. Looks like rule-breaking runs in the family. She reminds him this is a special dungeon, a path of atonement, and they're both facing this punishment in their weakened state. Julius explains this is why it's called a punishment. The difficulty is cranked way up. She quickly clarifies that Coup only broke the rules to protect others. She smashes another monster, declaring that what they need now is more power. She insists that without his magic enhancement, they're at a severe disadvantage. Alva clenches his fist, accepting the weight of his new responsibility. She tells him she's counting on him to figure it out. No pressure, of course. They finally reach the 5th layer, but something feels different. It's a serene cavern with no enemies in sight. Julius explains this is a safe zone, a place to rest for a few hours. She finds traces of Coup, realizing they might catch up if they just keep going. Julius is surprised that after 5 layers, Alva isn't even out of breath. She reminds him that Coup used powerful forbidden techniques to protect others, and the backlash from those techniques left Coup far more weakened than her. Alva recalls Cou's tiny lizard form, realizing her situation is even more dire. Julius warns him that the 10th layer holds the dungeon's greatest challenge. It's a special event unique to this dungeon, a duel arranged by the Beacon organization. Because of course HR has a gladiator pit. Alva's expression hardens as the weight of this new threat sinks in. She reveals their opponent will be another spirit user just like him. The final trial is a purification duel in a massive, imposing coliseum, and that's why they can't afford to waste a single moment resting. Julius declares that as a big sister, it's her sacred duty to protect Kuyu. She vows to save her little sister, while Alva looks on, completely unimpressed. But as they descend, the enemies get stronger, and Julius is clearly running on fumes. She insists they can't rest, making Alva's magic enhancement more crucial than ever. They finally reach the 6th layer, the deadline for Alva's little homework assignment. And their new opponent is a hulking bone ogre, ready to welcome them. The beast charges its signature attack, a devastating bone cannon. Julius grits her teeth, preparing to meet the attack head-on despite her exhaustion. She unleashes her own technique, a powerful diamond bullet, to counter the blast. But Alva can only watch, admitting his one weakness. He still can't use his magic. He knows he has the raw power, but not the skill to wield it. His life as a slave gave him immense power, but no formal training. He can borrow a spirit's power, but can't cast spells on his own. A classic case of all the gear and no idea. But with Julius in danger, he knows he has to do something. Suddenly, a new monster ambushes them from behind. It unleashes a flurry of razor-sharp claws aiming for Julius. Without hesitation, Alva throws himself in front of her. She can only watch in horror as he takes the full force of the blow. The attack lands, a brutal spray of blood painting the cavern floor. Meanwhile, in the Colosseum, Coup is already facing her own brutal trial. Her opponents for the final trial are a mysterious prisoner and his powerful centaur spirit. She faces down not one, but 2 massive spirits, completely outnumbered. Battered and exhausted, she endures the brutal purification duel. The prisoner user calmly observes, his spirit a massive sword crystal golem. He gives the order, and the golem unleashes a devastating slash. But Coup fights back, unleashing her own explosive light technique. The 2 attacks meet in a blinding flash of raw power. Her light bullet shatters the golem's blade, a testament to her strength. The crystalline beast stumbles back, roaring in frustration. But the counterattack leaves Coup drained, her stamina fading fast. The mysterious prisoner user finally clenches his fist. He channels his own magic, preparing to enhance his spirit. The raw blue energy surges into the sword crystal golem. The beast roars, now overflowing with its master's power. But Coup refuses to back down, firing another desperate blast. Her light is met by the golem's newly empowered blade. And this time, her attack is completely and utterly overwhelmed. She's sent crashing to the ground, the impact shaking the entire arena. Battered and bruised, she can barely move from the force of the blow. She realizes the bitter truth. Without her master, she is hopelessly outmatched. She realizes they need to find a way to counter their opponent, a way to overcome the overwhelming power of magic enhancement. Coup admits this fight is far tougher than she ever expected. Worse still, she's facing not 1, but 4 powerful spirits. Talk about being outnumbered. Her opponent mutters to himself, his words filled with a strange desperation. He reveals he's already killed 9 others in this duel for his freedom. And if he kills Coup, his crimes with the Anger Greed gang will be pardoned. The name rings a bell. It's the same bandit group Alva just defeated. He confirms the connection, but insists he's a senior member, not some common thug. Coup finally understands why those bandits knew so much about spirit users. He decides he's talked too much and it's time for her to die. While she's distracted, his lizard spirit lunges from behind. The bandit user channels his magic, preparing another enhanced attack. A massive cyclops spirit smashes her with a devastating club. Coup hits the ground, battered but far from broken. She pushes through the pain, launching a fiery counterattack. Her explosive light kick slams into the crystal golem. She realizes he can only enhance 2 spirits at a time. Looks like someone's multitasking skills have a hard cap. With a new strategy, she targets the unenhanced spirits first. But a 4th spirit appears, calling her efforts completely pointless. Coup struggles to her feet, bruised and battered but not broken. Her eyes burn with defiance, refusing to surrender to the pain. She unleashes a blast of light, targeting the unenhanced Cyclops. The centaur spirit scoffs, questioning her chances of winning this fight. But as she focuses on one foe, the lizard spirit attacks from behind. Pushing past her limits, she gathers energy for a desperate counter. Her explosive light counter erupts, sending her foes flying. But the massive attack leaves her completely drained, collapsing to the floor. Looks like her battery is running critically low. Yet even on the brink of collapse, she lunges for the downed lizard. And with a final, brutal strike, she takes another one of them down. She uses the downed lizard as a projectile, unleashing another explosive light attack. But the centaur spirit has already prepared a devastating counter. He unleashes a massive lightning arrow, a bolt of pure destructive energy. The attack strikes Coup from behind, catching her completely off guard. She can only scream as the lightning courses through her exhausted body. The blast sends her flying across the arena, crashing hard into the ground. The bandit user celebrates, ordering his spirits to finish her off immediately. The hulking Cyclops raises its club, ready to deliver the final crushing blow. Coup can only grit her teeth, her body refusing to move another inch. With two spirits closing in, her desperate battle seems to be at its end. But just as the club descends, a diamond bullet slams into the Cyclops. The bandit user and his spirit can only stare, completely caught off guard. Coup looks up from the ground, her mind struggling to comprehend the save. A familiar voice cuts through the silence, announcing a timely arrival. Cou's eyes widen in disbelief as she recognizes who has come for her. Alva and Julius stand before her, a two-person cavalry against an army of spirits. Alva offers a calm greeting, asking if she's been holding up okay. You know, just a casual check-in. Coup can only stammer their names, completely stunned to see them here. Tears well in her eyes, not of relief, but of guilt for her master. She cries out that he just won his freedom and now he's risked it all for her. He recalls that first meal and how delicious it was. Coup is completely baffled by his sudden change of topic. He remembers that simple meal, a moment of pure happiness. He declares he's only here to invite his friend to another meal. And for him, that simple reason is more than enough to risk it all. His simple, heartfelt words cut right through her despair. Tears stream down her face, a mix of joy and overwhelming gratitude. But their opponent just scoffs, calling him a fool as he enhances his spirit. He mocks the idea of a human protecting a spirit, calling it a meaningless death. Julius screams for him to enhance her magic, ready to join the fight. But Alva calmly admits he still hasn't mastered magic enhancement. Julius is completely baffled, asking how they even got here so fast. But she tells Coup to just watch what's about to happen. She tells her to pay very close attention to her master. The bandit's golem unleashes a massive, devastating slash wave. But Alva doesn't even flinch, planting his feet to meet the attack. He grips the hilt of a sword, ready to fight on his own terms. With a defiant roar, he charges straight into the wall of energy, and with a single swing, he splits the entire attack in half. Looks like he's still got a few tricks up his sleeve. The bandit user can only stare, his reality completely shattered. Coup can only stare, her mind completely blown by this display. Alva explains that without his slave collar, the curse of weakness is also gone. The bandit realizes Alva fought while under a dozen different debuffs. Apparently, he was playing on hard mode this whole time. The bandit user looks to his spirit, his confidence completely shattered. He asks if it's really true that humans can't defeat spirits. Alva's eyes burn with cold fire as he declares it's time to find out. The story flashes back, revealing the unbelievable sight that led to this moment. Back on the 6th layer, Alva had warned Julius of an ambush from behind. A horn mole spirit unleashed its razor-sharp cut-claw technique. And Alva, without a second thought, had thrown himself in front of Julius to take the blow. Julius can only scream his name, watching him sacrifice himself for her. A brutal spray of blood confirms the attack has landed. But it's the monster's claws that have been severed, not Alva. Julius is left completely speechless, her horror turning to confusion. Alva stands before her, having blocked and countered the spirit's attack. She recalls a fundamental rule of their world. Humans cannot defeat spirits. Even Alva is stunned, realizing he just sliced through the beast with ease. Julius's mind races, trying to comprehend this absolute monster of a human. Back in the present, the bandit's Cyclops spirit roars with renewed fury. But now Coup has backup, as Julius stands ready to join the fight. A fundamental law of the world was about to be shattered by a single human. With a defiant glare, Alva was ready to rewrite the rules himself. The bandit user can't comprehend what he's seeing, his mind rejecting reality. But his centaur spirit knows that ignoring the impossible is a fatal mistake. It begins charging a massive attack, much to its master's surprise. The centaur can't believe it's using its ultimate technique against a human. But the bandit user agrees. This is no ordinary opponent. He gives the order to kill Alva without a shred of mercy. Alva, however, decides to offer his opponent a bit of friendly advice. He compliments the Cyclops' 3 eyes, identifying them as the source of its power. He explains its massive club is just slowing it down. He continues his lecture, suggesting a different weapon choice. And with a single blur of motion, he slices the spirit to pieces. He calmly recommends something more maneuverable next time. for its next life. The bandit user completely loses it, pouring magic into his centaur. Even Coup and Julius can only watch, stunned by this turn of events. He screams that he'll kill all of them for this humiliation. But Alva just repeats his earlier point, completely unfazed. The bandit unleashes a massive lightning arrow, demanding Alva shut up. Apparently, he's not a fan of constructive criticism. But this time, Coup and Julius are ready to back him up. But Alva is surprised to see his own blade now engulfed in flames. He combines their powers, unleashing a devastating new technique. The two attacks meet in a blinding, world-shattering explosion. The bandit user can only hope his ultimate attack was enough. But Alva emerges from the smoke, ready to bring the pain. The centaur spirit refuses to give up, charging another lightning arrow. But this time, he aims for the still-recovering Coup on the ground. Coup grits her teeth, ready to face the attack that nearly killed her. The centaur realizes his mistake. Focusing on Alva gave her time to recover. And Coup remembers this technique all too well from earlier. She knows the key to dodging is to watch the enemy's hands. And with that knowledge, she narrowly evades the lightning-fast projectile. A confident smirk crosses her face. She's got his number now. But the centaur is ambushed from behind by a furious Julius. She reminds him that he's not just fighting one spirit anymore. The centaur stumbles, caught completely off guard by the pincer attack. And with the spirit distracted, Alva steps in to end this fight. The centaur can only let out a scream of pure, unadulterated terror. Coup gathers her remaining strength for one final decisive blow. Together, they unleash a perfectly synchronized explosive light attack. With the spirits defeated, only one loose end remains. The team now has to decide the fate of the captured spirit user. Coup offers a simple solution: destroy the pendant on his chest. She explains that shattering the gem will sever his power for good. Alva can't help but notice the man's contract gems are a little underwhelming. Coup points out the damage from his defeated spirits, urging Alva to finish the job. With no hesitation, Alva raises his blade to end the man's career as a spirit user. And with a single decisive strike, the bandit's fate is sealed. But his defeat sends a ripple of failure through the labyrinth. Elsewhere, a green-haired girl cries to Ancilla, admitting she failed to stop the intruders. Ancilla calmly explains their role is to provide a stage for atonement. Her subordinate, an executor named Noah, is shocked by this. But Ancilla isn't finished with her lecture just yet. She glares, pointing out that Noah is forgetting something crucial. The young executor is completely lost, sweating under the pressure. Ancilla adjusts her subordinate's crooked tie. Priorities. But Noah's attention is now fixed on a projection of Alva. Ancilla admits this development is beyond expectations. An anomaly. Noah notices a hint of amusement in her superior's voice. Ancilla offers a cryptic smile, clearly enjoying this new variable. Ancilla feels the very rules of their world begin to fracture. She wonders if this unlikely trio is the key she's been waiting for. She turns to her subordinate, inviting her to enjoy the show. A knowing smile crosses her face. A new era is about to begin. Back in the arena, a voice congratulates them on their victory. Alva and Julius turn, surprised by the sudden sarcastic applause. Ancilla appears out of nowhere, Noah in tow, declaring their trial complete. Julius glares, but Ancilla claims she's just here for a friendly introduction. Noah then bursts forward, loudly declaring her name and her frustration. Apparently, she's the architect of this whole punishment dungeon. Ancilla offers another cryptic smile, suggesting their paths will cross again. Alva tries to cut ties, but Ancilla insists she's here to stay. With a simple snap of her fingers, she reveals her gift. A brilliant light suddenly envelops both Coup and Julius. They can only stare, wondering what just happened to them. Cou's arm is suddenly encased in a golden-scaled gauntlet. Julius finds her own power restored, a massive blade in her hand. Coup explains this is a massive power-up for them both. Her dragon scale offers immense defense, a game-changing ability. Alva turns to Ancilla, questioning the source of this sudden gift. Ancilla clarifies she didn't return what was lost, but simply gave them a boost. Noah loses her mind, accusing Ancilla of stealing other people's techniques. Ancilla simply ignores her subordinate's tantrum and moves on. She congratulates them, but clarifies this is just the first step. Alva understands. The true depths of the spirit labyrinth are still far away. Julius knows they'll need immense determination to carve out a new path. A brilliant gate opens, marking the true beginning of their journey. Ancilla offers a final, cryptic farewell to the group. The team stands ready, now joined by a mysterious red-haired girl. But their next step takes them to an entirely unexpected place. They stare in confusion at a modern city, a world away from the labyrinth. Alva can only stare, his mind struggling to process the sudden change. He demands to know where they are, but Coup seems to have expected this. Julius tries to explain standard dungeon rules, but their situation is anything but standard. Coup clarifies that this is a safe zone, still technically inside the labyrinth. They've arrived at Layer Zero, the legendary spirit city of Ganzelgarn. As Alva tries to wrap his head around this, Julius just wants to find a place to talk. She leads them to a massive building, her only reason being that it was nearby. You know, priorities. But the moment they step inside, Alva is once again completely overwhelmed. He's surrounded by more books than he's ever seen, a treasure beyond his wildest dreams. And their librarian for the day is a magical talking grimoire. Because of course it is. Coup calmly explains it's a book spirit, as Alva's reality shatters once again. Settled in a private booth, Alva admits he's completely lost. He explains that in his world, books are a rare and precious commodity. Coup agrees that's true for the human world, but this is different. Julius explains that their entire civilization is built on spirit power. With plant spirits for paper and book spirits for copying, knowledge is abundant. She concludes this allows their culture to advance at an incredible pace. Alva asks about Layer Zero, and Coup explains their punishment was a special stage. Looks like they skipped the tutorial. She explains this city is the true starting point for all adventurers. A sudden realization hits Julius as she formally greets her little sister. Julius suddenly explodes, scolding Alva for giving Coup a nickname without her permission. Alva actually considers her point, remembering he named Coup back in her lizard days. But Coup clarifies that Coup-na is a name she gave herself long ago. She insists she treasures the name Alva gave her and wants to keep it. Alva is surprised, but understands the weight of her simple request. Coup is absolutely overjoyed by his decision to keep calling her Coup. Julius, on the other hand, is not taking this well at all. She seethes in the corner, her sisterly concern now just pure, unadulterated rage. But Cou's attention shifts to a nearby clock, noting the sun is about to set. She offers a cryptic smile, explaining that the timing is perfect for what's to come. Alva can only utter a single word of pure astonishment. The entire city suddenly erupts in a brilliant golden light. Coup explains that light spirits are the source of this dazzling display. Julius, however, is more concerned with keeping Alva away from her sister. Coup reveals she's been holding onto their bandit loot with a handy storage spell. And with their newfound wealth, they secure a room at a luxurious inn. Alva is about to have another life-altering experience. He stares in awe at the legendary technology known as a shower. He's completely overwhelmed by the simple luxury, a feeling he's never known. But his moment of peace is cut short as he finds his two companions in his room. Coup cheerfully makes herself at home while Julius sulks in the corner, clearly not a fan of this arrangement. But Cou's expression turns serious. There's something important he needs to know. She explains it's the fundamental reason their paths crossed in the first place. The truth behind why she and Julius were forced to use the forbidden techniques. She needs him to understand the enemy they faced and the desperate situation they were in. She asks him to listen to her story before making his final judgment on their actions. It's a tale about the greatest enemy the entire spirit world has ever known. A monstrous, world-ending entity known only as the Opposition. She repeats that this is the reason they broke their world's greatest taboo. She wants him to know the truth about this enemy and the secret war they're fighting. Her story begins months ago, in a hidden village under siege. A storm of dark energy rains down, consuming the villagers in a tide of purple fire. The survivors scramble to save the wounded, their home reduced to rubble. One young man can only cower, his mind unable to process the sheer horror. He clutches his head, his sanity fracturing under the weight of the assault. But an old elder watches on, his expression grim and knowing. He knows the truth, even if the others refuse to accept it. The legendary evil spirit, the Opposition, has finally awakened. Great, a world-ending Cthulhu monster. The monstrous entity gathers its power for another devastating attack and unleashes a beam of pure destruction, carving through the very earth itself. The villagers can only watch in horror, their hope completely gone. The elder gives the order to abandon their home. The fight is lost, but a single voice cuts through the despair, refusing to surrender. Coup stands alone, a tiny beacon of light against an endless darkness. Julius can only watch in shock as her friend faces the monster alone. The Opposition unleashes another wave of pure destructive energy, and with no other choice, Coup prepares to use a forbidden technique. Back in the present, the weight of her story hangs heavy in the room. Alva listens intently, the gravity of their secret war finally sinking in. Coup prepares to explain everything from the very beginning. Coup explains the Opposition is an ancient evil, a god of destruction. She reveals this ancient evil has finally awakened from its long slumber. Julius adds that its power is so immense, no army of spirits could stop it. Alva can only imagine the horror of facing such an overwhelming foe. But Coup explains they had a plan, a countermeasure for this very threat. You know, a classic in case of apocalypse plan. A hidden village was tasked with one mission, to reseal the great evil. Alva connects the dots, asking if this was the forbidden technique she used. But Coup awkwardly clarifies that his assumption is not quite right. Julius explains that only spirits with special qualities could perform the sealing. These special spirits were known as the Sealing Shrine Maidens. Alva repeats the term, trying to process this new piece of the puzzle. The village was a sanctuary, gathering and raising these special spirits. Julius proudly reveals she's a candidate, much to Alva's complete shock. She's furious at his reaction, while he admits she's not what he pictured. But Alva cuts to the core of the issue. Why did their plan fail so badly? Julius admits he's hit a sore spot. Their preparations were simply not enough. After centuries of sealing, no one alive knew the monster's true power. They believed the maidens would be enough, but the beast was beyond their comprehension. As the one-sided slaughter continued, only one thing saved them from annihilation. It was Cou's forbidden technique, a desperate last stand against the darkness. Alva listens, his expression hardening with every word. Coup reveals her technique wasn't for sealing, but for banishment. Julius proudly boasts about her sister's power, even if it was just a stopgap. Alva realizes Coup did what an entire army of maidens couldn't. His simple praise leaves the powerful spirit completely flustered. But Julius's expression shifts, the reality of the situation crashing down. Coup explains that such power always comes with a heavy price. The punishment for her world-saving technique had 3 distinct parts. First, her power was drained, reducing her to a tiny lizard, or, a small dragon. And second, she was randomly teleported to the human world, completely helpless. And third, after a set time, she was scheduled for execution by the Beacon organization. Coup admits that without her contract with Alva, she never would have recovered her strength. Julius explains she also used a forbidden technique, teleporting to the human world to find Coup. Alva remembers her punishment was far less severe, with minimal power loss. Coup declares that with their trial over, their purification is finally complete. And with their punishment behind them, it's time to move on to their next goal. Alva, of course, has no idea what she's talking about. She reveals their destination, the 18th layer of the spirit labyrinth. Their goal is to return to the hidden village of Il-Railal, the place where it all began. She needs to confirm the safety of her people and the state of their ruined home. Julius explains their goal is to unleash the full power of the Sealing Shrine Maidens. Alva listens, the term power release clearly catching his attention. She clarifies the candidates were still in training, but the village can unlock their potential. Coup clasps her hands, making a heartfelt plea to her master. She asks him to take them to the 18th layer, to the hidden village where it all began. Alva swallows hard, the weight of their world now resting on his shoulders. But his resolve is absolute. He agrees to take them to their homeland. Coup is absolutely ecstatic, her gratitude overflowing. Looks like the puppy dog eyes worked again. But Julius suddenly cuts in, telling him not to be so hasty. She warns him to think carefully before committing to such a dangerous path. Alva is confused by her sudden hesitation. She warns that this path will only lead to a life of pain and suffering. Coup is taken aback by her sister's blunt warning. Julius asks if he's truly ready to be dragged into their desperate war. Alva sits in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. But Coup quickly changes the subject, reminding him of treasure. Because priorities. Julius recalls Ancilla's promise, the labyrinth grants all wishes. It's a place filled with spirit artifacts, items that can create miracles. And with that, the conversation shifts to a new topic. Coup asks him a question he's never considered. What is his wish? Alva is completely thrown by the question, his mind drawing a blank. The next day, he sits alone, still pondering the impossible question. The very concept of a wish is completely foreign to him. He remembers his life as a slave, a world without choice or hope. It was Coup who reached into that darkness and pulled him out. He lets out a long breath, his mind finally settling on an answer. For him, freedom was the only goal. He has no wishes beyond that. Coup had suggested wishing for treasure, but he had no interest in wealth. Apparently, she's still a dragon at heart. He reaches the top of the stairs, a new thought dawning on him. He looks out at the city, his eyes fixed on the distant labyrinth tower. He marvels at the view, a sight he's never witnessed before. He tries to convince himself he just wants to travel, but knows it's a lie. He knows he needs a real purpose to face a monster like the opposition. But he's completely lost, with no goals or desires of his own. He looks out at the city, feeling like this is as far as he can go. But his quiet reflection is shattered by an angry, impatient voice. Alva turns, completely baffled by the sudden commotion. A man is screaming, accusing someone of disrespecting him. His rage is over a 2-minute wait, much to the other patrons' discomfort. He introduces himself as Belford, leader of Rebellion Storm. His orders are apparently absolute, even from the floor. The waitress apologizes for the delay, but Belford's patience has already run out. The other patrons know to stay quiet. Rebellion Storm is known for its strength and brutality. The poor waitress can only endure his verbal abuse, a common sight for the locals. He turns his rage on the other customers, daring anyone to challenge his authority. He then decides to take another man's food. Furious, they dare eat before him. But instead of eating it, he simply crushes it under his boot. Just to make a point. The waitress finally finds her courage, threatening to call the authorities on him. But he just raises his fist, ready to strike her down for her defiance. She braces for the blow, her eyes squeezed shut in fear. But the punch never lands. Stopped by a red-haired man who seems more offended by the wasted food. Alva can't believe his eyes, utterly offended by the wasted meal. Belford demands to know who this nobody is, daring to interrupt him. He screams that he's a veteran of 30 layers, a superior spirit user. Just a humble guy. But Alva calmly points out that without his spirits, he's just a regular guy. The words hit Belford like a physical blow, his confidence shattering. He draws his sword, insisting he's still a cut above the rest. The waitress can only scream, fearing for Alva's life. He brings the blade down, screaming about his vast combat experience. But the attack is stopped cold by just 2 of Alva's fingers. Belford can only stare, his mind refusing to accept what just happened. Belford stares at his hand, unable to process what just happened. Alva grabs him, agreeing their combat experience is on different levels. He holds up the sandwich, noting a true warrior would never waste food. And with that, he slams the bully straight into the floorboards. Belford is left unconscious, wearing his meal as a hat. The waitress can only stammer her thanks, completely stunned. She's in absolute awe of his incredible display of strength. She's never seen anyone deflect a blade with their bare hands. She excitedly asks if he's an adventurer, revealing she's a rookie too. Alva is completely caught off guard by her sudden cheerful energy. She formally introduces herself as Tiny, welcoming him to her cafe. She offers him a free coffee in exchange for his adventure stories. Alva is completely stunned by the simple offer of a conversation. She's even more shocked to learn they're both only 15 years old. Alva admits his harsh life has made him look older than he is. She notes that for a rookie, he moves with the skill of a veteran. She even questions if he's truly human after his impossible feat. But his tough exterior cracks when he admits he can't read the menu. Her recommendation is a string of words he can't possibly comprehend. Seeing his confusion, she suggests they team up as fellow rookies. He tells her that before he can face the labyrinth, he has a different task. Back at the inn, Coup asks him the question he's been dreading. What is his wish? He looks to the sky, admitting he has no desires to speak of. He explains to Tiny that for him that's simply all there is. She understands, noting that conviction is a common topic among veterans. Alva is surprised she gets it, as she explains his motivation is just different. But her expression turns serious, warning him that it's also terrifying. She describes the crushing hostility of spirits, a poison to the human soul. Looks like the labyrinth has a serious morale problem. If your heart breaks under that pressure, you can never move forward. And if your legs tremble in fear, only a gruesome death awaits. Alva listens, her words about the labyrinth's pressure hitting him hard. She explains that to survive, one needs a core of desire and conviction. She admits it's just hearsay, but for Alva, it strikes a deep chord. She asks why he's so focused on this, but their talk is interrupted. His ridiculously complex coffee order finally arrives. But the person serving it is not what he was expecting. Looks like the cafe has some interesting hiring policies. Alva's brain short-circuits at the sight of this new arrival. The horned maid, however, remains completely and utterly unfazed. The entire cafe seems to be crackling with pure, unadulterated awkwardness. He finally asks the question on his mind, wondering if this is a man. The horned man asks if his reputation is truly legendary. He proudly welcomes Alva to the cafe of the legendary pervert. Tiny introduces him as Tortle, her contracted spirit, much to her own dismay. Tortle reveals he overheard their talk, asking about Alva's lack of desire. He offers his guidance only to admit he's also a rookie, so much for a mentor. He asks Alva for his own wish, suggesting his cross-dressing as an example. But Tortle's true desire is far more noble. He wants to become a hero. A flashback reveals his inspiration came from a children's picture book. He explains that his dream of being a hero led to his hobby of cosplay. With a determined fist, he declares his goal is to get stronger in the labyrinth. He declares he'll get stronger to accomplish his own justice. Alva can only stare, caught off guard by this sudden passion. He admits that even this strange man is more admirable than him. They get to the heart of the matter. Alva has no desires. He falls silent, the weight of their words sinking in. He reveals he was recently freed from a life of slavery. He admits that beyond helping Coup, he feels empty inside. He feels he's lacking a core self, a reason to have desires. He fears that no matter what, he's a slave by nature. His new friends can only listen, stunned by his confession. His new friends can only listen, their expressions a mix of pity and concern. But Tiny doesn't believe his self-assessment is accurate at all. Alva struggles to find the words to explain his emptiness. Tortle cuts to the heart of it, asking if helping Coup isn't his own wish. But Alva denies it, claiming it's a duty, not a personal desire. Tiny reminds him of the fight when he chose to protect them. She tells him that proves he's making his own choices, not acting like a slave. Her simple words shatter his entire perception of himself. He remembers his vow to Julius to choose his own path, even to hell. But his moment of revelation is cut short by a familiar, if unexpected, voice. Coup arrives, carrying a very limp Julius over her shoulder. Julius immediately points out the cross-dressing spirit, her priorities clearly in order. As thanks for his help, Tiny offers them a meal on the house. Coup's dragon instincts kick in, but her order is a little too exotic for the menu. With the chaos settled, Julius formally introduces herself and her little sister. Tiny confirms that the pervert is indeed their waiter for the day. The group settles in, questioning the cafe's rather unique dress code. And as he listens to them, a profound realization dawns on Alva. He remembers his darkest days, and the first time he ever felt friendship. And with that simple memory, everything finally clicks into place. Alva's eyes are filled with a newfound clarity and purpose. He remembers risking it all just to share another meal with a friend, and in that moment, he knew it was the right choice. This connection, this place, he chose it all for himself. To others, it might just be another ordinary, trivial day. But for Alva, this simple scene is a treasure beyond measure. Coup notices his quiet reflection, asking if he's getting sentimental. But it's not sentiment. It's the calm of a man who's found his way. He realizes that until now, he truly had nothing to call his own. And so, for this simple, trivial, everyday life. Alva takes a sip of his drink, his answer a simple, quiet no. He realizes his reason to fight is selfish, sweet, and right here in front of him. And in this simple, peaceful moment, he knows that's all he'll ever need.